What it do is your man Savalas. The SAVA checking in with Mark Clark in the Sports Parade Magazine podcast. Y'all go ahead and give him a call at 713-553-6370. Y'all hit me up at Savalas.com. He give it to you straight up with no chaser. Just how I like my yak.
Get ready, America. Up next is the fastest growing podcast in the nation, the Sports Parade Magazine podcast, heard daily by tens of thousands, hosted by the one and only Mark Clark, the man with the New Orleans accent who gives it to you straight with no chaser. Damn, I love that Mark Clark. Give him a call, 713-553-6370. Email him, markclark@sportsparademagazine.com, or follow him on Twitter at markswords or at sportsparademag, or listen via any phone.
Good morning, welcome to another edition of the Sports Parade Magazine podcast. You know that voice, you know that New Orleans accent. That's right, it's your boy Mark Clark, publishing editor of Sports Parade Magazine and host of the Sports Parade Magazine podcast. If I sound a little hoarse, excuse me, it's just because I've been screaming all weekend. Non-stop football, baby. Friday night lights, Saturday afternoon delights, and of course, Sunday and Monday night football, baby. I just love it. So I got a little excited, as you can tell by my voice, but just so glad to be here with the Sports Parade Magazine podcast for this Tuesday, September 17th. And man, it was just jam-packed. This weekend you had a little bit of everything. Besides the world of football, you had big-time college football game with at Texas A&M against Alabama, and also Money Mayweather. We're going to get into that. But we want to go to one of our main sponsors, one of the longtime sponsors of the fastest growing podcast in the country. That's right, Sports Parade Magazine, one of the fastest growing podcasts in the country with over 44,000 listeners. And one of the main sponsors is La Burge Casino Lake Charles, the place where you can get it all. And guess what? They now have an app. Just download that La Burge Casino Lake Charles app, pull it out, check it out. Scan it and you may win a free buffet just for trying out the app. But it does not stop there, because guess what? Every Thursday in September, every time you earn 25 points on your My Rewards Plus card plane, you get a free buffet or $5 in bonus rewards. Whatever you want, you can have it your way at My Choice Rewards. Also, this concerts, this spas. Check out the 80s and 70s band Cheap Trick in concert this Friday, September 20th at the La Burge Event Center. Tickets only $45. That's going to be a fantastic concert. Cheap Trick, Friday, September 20th at 9 p.m. Something every day in the month of September. You just have to be a part of it, baby, because guess what? Coming up on September 29th, you can win a Ford F-250 King Ranch and a share of $45,000. On September 29th from 4 to 7 p.m. Just get your entries in anytime this month, and guess what? You'll have a chance. And don't forget, earn $25 this month at La Burge Casino Lake Charles. $25 and you get a free buffet, all $5 in bonus rewards. My Choice Rewards, MyLaBurge.com, La Burge Casino Lake Charles. Well, let's get to our first fool of the week. Fool of the week. We got two of them right off the bat, baby. Right off the bat. Two fools of the week. Gotta hit it twice. The first fool was anybody that actually thought Floyd Money Mayweather was gonna lose that fight. Are we serious? Are you serious? Come on. You had to be straight trip and straight fool if you thought that was gonna happen. And the second fool is longtime Nevada Athletic Commission judge Cynthia C.J. Brown, who scored this fight a draw. That's right, she scored the Floyd Money Mayweather Canelo Alvarez fight a draw. Can you believe that? Anybody saw that fight say that redheaded boy didn't do anything but turn his face red, because he took jab after jab after jab after beating by a master in Floyd Money Mayweather. It was just a masterful masterpiece. It's just a superior boxer, a superior skill level. And even at the age of 36, Floyd still has it. And this kid was in over his head. He was a heavier puncher, but Floyd just absorbed that, deflected a lot of that energy. But man, it just makes you wonder about the world of boxing when you have a judge. You have two judges that basically said the kid didn't win a round against Money Mayweather, and then this judge says it's a draw. And then to justify it, you have the head of the Nevada Athletic Commission, basically the boss who appoints these judges, saying, well, Cynthia C.J. Brown, you have to understand, she may have indeed viewed the fight and judged it a draw. She may have, listen to me now, Sports Parade Magazine podcast followers, she may have indeed saw the fight and viewed it as a draw. She may have indeed done that. But at the end of the day, even though she may have done that, she didn't actually think that Alvarez had won any round against Floyd Money Mayweather. I'm like, what? What? Meaning that, well, you have to understand, maybe she just saw that the rounds were very, very close, very, very close. And I'm talking about the Nevada Athletic Commission boss, that fool. Maybe she just viewed each round as very, very close. But her vision also saw that even though they were close, there was no doubt that Floyd won each round. But because they were close, she had to draw. She had to judge it as a draw. Just ridiculous. This is why boxing gets such a bad name, that goes down the path of professional wrestling as a fix, as more of an exhibition entertainment type thing than an actual sport. Excuse me. When you have situations like this, because you're saying, oh, without a doubt, Floyd won, but maybe she just saw it as very close and she judged it that way, but she really didn't think that Floyd lost. Well, guess what? You get two judges thinking like that, or you get one thinking maybe a little bit on the other side. Next thing you know, they're taking someone's title from them. Simply inexcusable. Inexcusable. And it's inexcusable if you thought, if anybody thought, that Floyd Money Mayweather was going to lose that fight. Don't be a fool. Don't go against the money, baby. Don't go against the money. So I hope nobody lost too much money trying to bet against Floyd. Elsewhere, Saturday was a big day, big hype. Alabama, man, and that dynamo, that dynasty that they have in the making, 2 straight national champions, still number 1 ranked. Saban already has his Bear Bryant statue erected in front of the stadium, in front of the university. I mean, he's really building. They don't just rebuild. They don't rebuild. They don't even reload. They just keep rolling. Man, when they played upstart Texas A&M, new second year to the SEC, and Johnny Football, Johnny Manziel, the often troubled wonder kid, Heisman Trophy winner. Well, guess what? Texas A&M got slapped down, beat down, 49-42. But let me just say a few things about this game. If this is the game of the year, college football has really gone down this year. And if Alabama is to repeat, I don't know about you or me, I've never seen a Nick Saban on Alabama coach team, particularly those national title teams, giving up 42 points. Let me just say this. Texas A&M is a very good team. They're very well coached. Johnny Manziel obviously is a terrific talent. But there's no way they should be giving up 42 points. So I can see the eventual national champion not coming from either one of these teams. But you never know. Because after the loss, Texas A&M was just moved down to number 10. And the way it's gone the past few years in college football with this antiquated voting system and, BCS system and all this rigmarole and getting hoodwinked and beat down underneath, under the table to get to this eventual playoff system that we have, is the team that's ranked just outside of the top 10 or number 10 like Texas A&M, they can steadily win, and the schedule is going to be relatively easy now that they've got rid of Alabama. And then all of a sudden, as the teams above them are playing tougher schedules and losing, they're creeping up. Number 9, number 8, number 7. And in the end, they could wind up still in a national title game. That's why we have to really get rid of this once and for all and get a true playoff system. But Alabama, You know, they may be more prolific offensive-wise than they have been in previous years, but this, to me, does not represent the number one team, let alone a national title team in Alabama. I don't think so. Not in the scenario. And speaking of Johnny Manziel, with all due respect to his talent, to his skill, a lot of those passes that he's putting up, that he's throwing up there, remind me of Tim Tebow. Yes, he makes something happen. There's something special. There's something dynamic about it. But at the end of the day, you're not going to do that on the next level. That's not going to play out in the NFL. Throwing those balls up for grab, just heaving them. And also, he's slightly built, slight of stature. And he has to be more of a Drew Brees type, pure pocket passer, was able to, evade the rush. But if he's going to be the type of quarterback that likes to throw on a run, that likes to move, a la Michael Vick, a Cam Newton, those type of quarterbacks, he's going to be in for a rude awakening because he's not built. Just like Vick isn't, Cam Newton, those guys, they can take that beating. They can absorb a lot of that punishment. Not this kid. He's going to have a hard time on the next level unless he gets more disciplined and becomes more of a traditional pocket passer. But time remains to be seen on that. Now, let's get to the NFL. Let's break down some of these games and what happened over the week in the NFL. Thursday Night Football, we said it was going to be a dog, and it sure was a dog. New England squeaked out a rainy mess of a game, 13-10 against the New York Jets. What I can tell you about this game is the Jets, Rex Ryan has a great defense. He's a great defensive mind. He has a young front. This young front on the New York Jets, defensive front, mind you what I'm saying, mark my word on the Sports Parade Magazine podcast, September 17, 2013. In 2 years, this is going to be the dominant defense. And if they put an offense, which goes along with a quarterback and a running back and a wide receiver, with this defense, with this young defensive front that's coming up, this could be a playoff contender, a Super Bowl contender in a couple of years. They're just not there now. They have nothing in terms of running back, nothing in terms of wide receiver. And we know Geno Smith remains to be seen if he ever turns out to be anything. But one thing will not be taken away. Rex Ryan is a great defensive coordinator, but I know he's not going to be around to see the fruits of this because he's more of a defensive coordinator. I think this is going to be a disaster of a year, and he's going to wind up losing. Because in the NFL, when you're struggling to put up 10 against a bad Patriots defense, despite the weather, with all the rules that are favored and geared towards offense to put up points, man, this is like being shut out. And that's very, very hard in the NFL to get shut out. The Patriots, you know what? They just keep winning. Haven't looked good. They have all of the injuries. Shane Vereen, Gronkowski, still not back. Maybe back 50-50 this week, but heading to the third week, he's still not back. So it's basically no tight end play, no wide receiver play at all. None. So he's stuck with basically Julian Edmond, who's basically a glorified third stringer, but he's been forced into action. And guess what? Tom Brady and Belichick just keep getting it done. They keep doing just the little things. But is this a Super Bowl team? Is this a contender? I don't think so. And if you find them contending in the playoffs in the AFC, it's because the AFC is just that weak. Make no mistake about it. Elsewhere, St. Louis lost to the Atlanta Falcons, the arch rival of the Saints, 31-24. A few things about this game. Atlanta got out to the quick, big margin of, they went up like 3 touchdowns. I mean, it was just like, St. Louis couldn't do anything right. But they had to hold on at the end, Atlanta, to win this game 31-24 with St. Louis driving. Now, a few things to be said about this game. One, you had Steven Jackson that went out with this mysterious ailment. There were a ton of injuries this past weekend. Now, he catches a pass for a touchdown. It's like a 10-yard touchdown run from a pass. And you watch the replays over and over. He's not hit. He's just like falling into the end zone. And supposedly he has a thigh bruise. Well, it's kind of difficult to have a thigh bruise when you're not hit on your thigh. Now, whether they're covering it up, I don't know. They were the only team this Monday after the game that did not even give an update on his status. A lot of times teams will hide the true nature of the injury or what's going on with him. But Steven Jackson is getting up there in age, and he has a history of these type of injuries. So we just have to stay tuned to see what happens, because even with Steven Jackson, Atlanta has struggled in the running game. Without him, it's been gone. Joquez Rogers is just not cut out for it. Not especially with a line that is porous as the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons are coming one-dimensional with Matt Ryan. They have to just throw that ball up over and over again. And that's extremely difficult because they have the greatness of a Julio Jones. But Roddy White is just a shadow of himself with this high ankle sprain that they tried to cover up throughout training camp. But it's obvious now he's just out there, and he's probably not 50% of what he was. So he's just a decoy, which is amazing that Julio Jones was able to have the game that he had. So now you're looking at basically Julio. They can shut down Tony Gonzalez because they don't have that threat of White. And if you don't have a running back, it's going to be a long first few weeks of the season for the Atlanta Falcons. They also lost two starters. They lost their fullback, which is key, and they also lost defensive end, one of the defensive ends, Corey Deemer. So that's going to be really hard for them to overcome. St. Louis, man, it's the same thing. Sam Bradford is the last of the rookie class of quarterbacks that got the big money, the 100, 120, 130 million. They don't get that money now. They only get like 50 million. They don't get that $100 million under the new collective bargaining agreement. So he's the last of that class. How many years are going to go by where we keep talking about Sam Bradford and all the weapons like a Tavon Austin, like a Givens, that they've given him, and it just doesn't seem to pay off in terms of on-the-field victories. They have a pretty good defense, particularly a defensive front, but Sam Bradford, it remains to be seen. They traded away the pick. They traded away the pick that would be RG3 because they said we already have our franchise quarterback in Sam Bradford. So we're going to see if that down the line, the next 2 or 3 years, if that doesn't haunt the St. Louis Rams, because right now it's just not working out. They just haven't shown the consistency. And at running back, Darryl Richardson replacing Steven Jackson in St. Louis. Come on, you got to do better than 10 and 15 yards total for a game when you're getting the ball, when you're the main featured running back. It's just not cutting it. They're not going to go far like that at all. Baltimore. I picked this upset. I said Cleveland would beat them, but Baltimore held out to beat the Cleveland Browns 14-6, but you know what? It was a nail-biter. Once again, when you're scoring 14 points, or in Cleveland's case, 6, with all of the rules designed to help offenses and to hinder defenses, it's going to be a long season, baby. Baltimore, I heard Ray Lewis, the new analyst on ESPN, and he's saying that until they're beat, no one's going to tell him that his ex-team isn't a team to beat. Your team is not going anywhere. The Ravens are not going to win a Super Bowl. They're not even going to make the playoffs. They simply don't have anything. With Jacoby Jones down, there's nothing there. It's very easy to lock down on Torrey Smith. And what do you have? You have no tight ends to speak of. No tight ends to speak of. Dennis Peter out with an injury. So now you have basically no wide receivers because you can lock down and double team your main wide receiver. And then the one thing you can count on, Ray Rice goes out of the game with a strained hip flexor muscle. Non-contact play. Now, once again, teams try to downplay everything. They don't want to let you know if something is serious for a number of reasons. One, they want to play this mind game with opposing teams that are playing them in terms of making them prepare for the fact that player will be at full speed and in the lineup. And they'll wait to game day, and you won't find out if that player is going to play off. In the case of Ray Rice, it will be the backup Bernard Pierce, who is very capable, but a little bit of a different type of back than Ray Rice. Ray Rice, is a great superstar type player. Now, they are saying right now, Baltimore, that they're just going to rest him for the rest of the week. So, he's not going to practice. So, you will not know, particularly if you're a fantasy football player, you will not know into game time if Ray Rice is going to suit up. So, that's something that you have to pay close attention to. But it's going to be a long year for Baltimore, a really long year. My, how the mighty have fallen. Ray got out just in time. That's how you do it, baby. Get your ring and leave. Leave on top. Cleveland. Man, we've been talking about Cleveland over and over. You can't be serious when your franchise quarterback was damn near 30 years old coming out of college, Brandon Wheaton. Not trying to be funny, not to knock him, but you really can't take yourself serious as an organization when that's your franchise quarterback and he's already closer to retirement than he is to the beginning of his career. So with that said, I mean, they just don't have a lot of weapons. They don't have a lot of weapons. The running game hasn't been there the way they expected it to be. Not much of a passing game. Nice defense, particularly that defensive front. Young in Cleveland. I told you last week, Joe Hayden, probably the best, not probably, but the best cover corner, shut it down in the league. But once again, it's just not enough when you can't generate any points. Most times when you hold a team to 14 points, you should win that game. And they simply did not win because they don't generate enough offense. So it's going to be two bad teams in Cleveland and Baltimore for the rest of the year unless something dramatically turns around those fortunes of those two teams. Buffalo, one of the surprises of the weekend in the early season, beat the hapless Carolina Panthers 24-23. E.J. Manuel, this is another game that I thought could be an upset. He came through, a guy that a lot of people kind of scoffed at when they said he was going to be a first-round pick and he was going to be the quarterback of the future. You know, he still has a long way to go and a lot to learn. But he's doing a lot of things that Buffalo has not had for years in terms of the dynamic presence of a guy that can scramble, a guy that can run, a guy that can throw like an RG3 on the run. So he's been terrific. That running game of Buffalo really hasn't come around with C.J. Spiller and Fred Jackson, the grizzled veteran, backing them up. Hasn't been there, but they played excellent ball, and they won 24-23. Carolina, man, it's another player, Cam Newton. After that great rookie year, it wasn't so good last year, and this year it's not that good. Now, whether they're trying seems to make him more of a pocket passer than make him what he is. He's an RG3 type. When you have that type of talent, you need that run-read option, that threat that teams don't know what to prepare for. And right now, what they're trying to do with him is just not working. Besides the fact he has nothing. He has no talent around him. Nothing. When your talent is D'Angelo Williams and Steve Smith, who's about 38 years old, you're in trouble. So a lot of pressure is being put on Cam Newton, and I don't think it's justified. They're putting a lot of pressure on him without giving him the weapons and the tools to succeed, all the type of system. So that's a place where you can look for a coaching change very soon, early in the season. Chicago, the Bears, 31. The Vikings, the black and blue division, 30. You know, it's amazing to me that Minnesota scored 30 points. Besides AP, they don't have anything. This boy simply can't ponder. He cannot quarterback in the NFL. Mark my word, I'm telling you, Christian Ponder is not an NFL quarterback. And he's showing it by just underthrowing, overthrowing, putting the teams in bad situations. And it's amazing when you have every front AP face is going to be stacked against him, he's still able to produce. But there's only so much that you can produce given the fact that there's not a threat anywhere else. Yeah, defense, not too bad. You have a few players, they're able to generate some turnovers. But Chicago, to me, it's been a lucky team so far. But you know what? To win in this league, to win in any league, you need a little bit of luck. It's not just purely talent. You do need a little bit of luck. Chicago, they just keep grinding away. I think Matt Forte looks fantastic. He's overcome the injury. And unlike the previous regime, Trestman does what Lovie Smith didn't. He's letting this, you're the man, you're the main man. Because I thought it was unfair that a lot of times Forte would get that ball all the way down there in the red zone, get it on the end zone line, and then they'd pull him and they'd put somebody else in to score the 1 or 2 yard touchdowns. But he's giving him the confidence and the respect that he deserves as an elite running back. Say, you're the man. You're not just a first or second down back. You're a 3 down back, and you're definitely a goal line back, particularly when you're the one that's doing the work. So I think that's giving him a lot of confidence. And Martellus Bennett, where has he come out of nowhere? This must be a contract year because he's lighting it up at the tight end spot. But once again, I know the greatness of Brandon Marshall, probably the greatest possession receiver, Keyshawn Johnson type, but I still wonder about Jay Cutler. I still wonder at the end of the day, will he be able to last? Will he be able to keep up and not go back to revert to his old ways, which is shooting himself in the foot with the turnover? But that defense of Chicago is old, it's long in the tooth, but Peanut Tillman and company still managed to come up with the big turnovers when they need them. But I still wonder how long that old defense can last health-wise over the grueling course of an NFL season. Green Bay just throttled the Washington Redskins 38-20. I mean, throttled them. I'm talking about, I think this is the first time in NFL history you had, with all the rules, a 300-yard passing game is nothing anymore because all the rules are skewed. So you really can't go by all these new quarterback and passing records because it's playing with a different set of standards and different rules than the quarterbacks of the 80s and 90s and even early 2000s had to play under. But with that said, Rodgers damn near threw for 500 yards. 500 yards. He had 3 100-yard receivers, 3, count them, 3, and a 100-yard back. And that was the backup. That was the backup running back because the first string, the rookie out of Alabama, went out early in the game after one carry with basically a dirty, illegal hit by Merriman and to the head, causing a concussion. But, the Green Bay, they're just clicking on all cylinders. Now, defense, I don't know. I'm not so sure that they're able to keep up this offense, prolific offense, Green Bay, without having some help from that defense. I think they're going to be tougher games like they faced when they had to play San Francisco at the opening season. And those are the games that they haven't been able to pull out. The Redskins, man, you're talking about disappointment, but is it a surprise? RG3 is not the same. He's not the same. He's flinching away from the contact when that pocket starts to collapse. He's not taking that extra millisecond to stay in there and take that hit for a receiver to get open, for him to get a little bit clearer of a look downfield. And he's simply not running. Now, whether that's by design, whether they're trying to protect that knee as it heals, or whether he's just a little bit gun-shy mentally after the horrific reconstruction of the knee, which I might add the second reconstruction on that knee. He had one when he was in college. He simply is not the same player. Now, when you're not the same player, you're not going to be the same team. Now, it's not all on RG3. The defense is horrific. I want to know how does Mike Shanahan have his job? First, you take your future, your franchise, the next 12 years, you endanger his future. Endanger his future by putting them out there in best face it, a meaningless playoff game because they were not going to win the Super Bowl and they weren't going to the Super Bowl. They were too young and didn't have the talent. But you endangered him by putting him out there. That knee is shredded. So you endangered your franchise future and the future of this kid. Then you assemble a defense that is just this porous? I mean, there's nothing. There's no linebackers. There's no defensive ends. There's no defensive tackles. There's nothing in the defensive backfield. Simply nothing. When you're giving up damn near 600 yards, you're bad. And I'm trying to figure out how does Shanahan have his job. I feel bad for ex-Saint coach Jim Haslett, the defensive coordinator, because he doesn't have a lot to work with. But I'll tell you what, they're on a pace to make last year's record-breaking porous defense of Saints look like a pretty good defense. That's just how bad the Redskins are playing. And unless something changes dramatically and people say, well, RG3 didn't have a postseason, didn't have a preseason, he just needs 3 or 4 games to loosen up and get the rust off. I don't know, but right now I'm telling you that knee does not look bad. And if he pushes it and takes a hit on that knee, because somebody's going to take a shot at that knee. Somebody, even if it's a late hit, even if it's a suspension, they're going to take a go at that knee. And I just really worry about that future. And things are really spiraling downhill in D.C. Houston, call them the cardiac kids so far early in the season. They beat Tennessee 30-24. Tell you what, Tennessee doesn't have much, but they have a defense. Greg Williams, that pariah, has made them a much better defender. But I tell you what, Houston, don't get excited. Slow it down, fools. Slow it down. All these Houston people I'm surrounded by, they keep talking about Super Bowl, Super Bowl. Let me tell you, you're lucky that you're not 0-2. And once again, I understand you do need a certain degree of luck. But when you have Andre Johnson, when you have Aaron Foster, when you have Ben Tate, when you have this rookie, Jordan, when you have all of these great players, and the defense, when you have a defense that is among the top in the league, with the J.J. Watts of the world, when you have all of that going for you, you should not be going into the second half of games, third quarter, early in the fourth quarter, trailing or barely ahead or tied. That is a warning sign. Something is not right. Why does it take this last-second heroics, these last-second comebacks, like they had to do in Week 1 against San Diego, and like they had to do last week, Sunday, against Tennessee? And that game was at home. Not a good sign moving forward. There has to be some real changes. You haven't seen this team, the Texans, put together a whole entire game of dominance that shows, you know what, we're setting the league on notice that we're to be dealt with. So right now, you better watch out, because you know they don't do good when it comes to the big games. You know how they crumbled when they had to play the Monday night game against New England last year. You know how they used to crumble every time they had to play Peyton Manning and the Colts. And guess what? Peyton is in Denver. I mean, there's a lot of teams that you'll have to get by if you're really going to call yourself Super Bowl contenders. And right now, Houston, don't get excited, baby, because it's not looking that fantastic for you. So slow your roll, baby. Slow your roll. Elsewhere, Miami, the surprise team of the league, 2-0, beat the Indianapolis Colts 24-20. Another game that I called. I tell you what, they've done a terrific job putting this defense together in Miami. You know, have some pieces that they're starting to put. They don't have the quarterback. Ryan Tannehill is not the answer. But, you know, you have Lamar Miller, the rookie running back, and he has the skills, the speed to be a playmaker. You know, they spent a lot of money, which I don't think I would have spent, on the wide receiver, Mike Wallace, the New Orleans native. I don't think they need him, because if you don't have a quarterback, you don't need a deep threat. But they're coming along. They're coming along slowly. But with a great defense in a weak AFC, this could be the surprise team to make the playoffs so far. And they beat a very good Colts team. Colts are not much on defense, but with Andrew Luck, they've shown that they have the talent and the potential, particularly on offense, to be a playoff team. So for Miami to come up with that victory 24-20, it speaks volumes about how far they've come early on this year at 2-0. Philadelphia. Chip Kelly's offense went down in flames to San Diego. The biggest surprise, probably because we know the history of West Coast teams going to the East Coast. They lost 33-30 to San Diego. Now, the thing about that game is San Diego came off that colossal collapse Monday night opening week in the last game to open up the season against the Texans. They just completely collapsed in the fourth quarter. They couldn't do anything right. But so you're thinking, okay, they're gone. They're playing Philadelphia at home. They're going from the West Coast to the East Coast, which is always a bad sign for the West Coast teams. Everything you figured lined up that San Diego was going to crumble, but they didn't. They played a terrific game. Terrific game. The wide receivers, I mean, Phillip Rivers looked like the Phillip Rivers of old. I mean, Antonio Gates even went for over 140 receiving yards, and he hasn't done that in over 3 years. They just look very good. Ryan Matthews has been running the ball harder. But let's face it, Philadelphia helped them. We talked about this Chip Kelly offense, and you can't keep up that pace. You can't keep up this fanatic, the fastest and the number of plays that's ever been seen in the NFL. This is not college Chip Kelly. These guys are getting worn out. As great as LaShawn McCoy is, you had him doubled over late in the game. Michael Vick taking terrific hits in that offense. You know, he had to come out for one play. You even had Coach Kelly acknowledge that he didn't realize he could call timeout. And if Michael Vick was able to go back in the game, he could have gone back in the game. But because he came out with that injury, he had to sit out one play when they were in the red zone, and that cost them a touchdown and a chance to potentially beat San Diego. You got to at least know the rules, man. Come on. You got to know the rules. You're not in college anymore. But like I said last week, small dudes. Deshaun Jackson, great, but small. Same thing with Michael Vick. Same thing with LaShawn McCoy. I just don't see how this pace and this porous defense of Philadelphia, how they last. Now, some will say, well, they're playing in the NFC East. The Giants are in the great shakes. The Cowboys are in the great shakes. And the Redskins. So, yes, maybe you can still pull out a division title. But it better be a division title because it won't be a wild card. I just don't see this pace and this style of ball holding up for the Philadelphia Eagles. Also, a case where they could have actually milked the clock and had a better chance at victory and stopping San Diego, but they're still playing the same style of ball, even with a win, even with a lead late in the game. That, Chip Kelly, is not stubborn. It's stupidity. It's stupidity. No one's telling you not to play your style. But guess what? If I have a 6-point lead, or if I have a 4-point lead, and I have the ball, and it's about 3 minutes left in the game, I'm not trying to run no huddle and rush up to the line. I'm trying to milk as much time as I can because I know if I get 2 or 3 first downs, it's over. Ball game. I'm not going to give Phillip Rivers and the chance and kicker Novak the chance to come back and beat me. And that's exactly what he did. So you better learn from that mistake because your system already is a little bit extra for the NFL. Elsewhere, the Saints' next opponent, Arizona, they upset Detroit 25-21. This is a big surprise because Detroit, I thought they'd pull it off. Arizona, defense is okay. They create some turnovers. They can get a few sacks. They have some good young defensive linemen. But Arizona has no running game with the speak of. Rashard Mendenhall doesn't have anything. I mean, there's nothing. Offensive line is not the types of manhandle or anything like that. So you basically have Carson Palmer just slinging it all over the field, which produces a lot of interceptions. And then you had Larry Fitzgerald that pulled up with that hamstring, and it remains to be seen whether he'll play or if he plays, if he'll be the same Larry Fitzgerald. That's the greatness that he is. But for Detroit, just a bad loss. Now, Reggie Bush went out. I got Reggie in my fantasy, and I know better. Let me give myself a fool of the week. Why would I take Reggie Bush? Why would I take Reggie Bush in fantasy? Because my favorite saying of Reggie Bush is he puts that one finger up, that church finger. When you're in church and you got to bow out, you're trying to walk past people and you're trying to leave to do whatever, and you put that finger up and you put your head. Well, that's Reggie Bush's career in a nutshell. Terrific 10, 15, 20-yard catch or run. Next thing you know, the finger's going up, he's coming out, like Steven Jackson did in Atlanta. These guys that, no matter what, some guys can just take a licking, beating after beating after beating. They just tough. They stay in there. You have to literally carry them off the turf. Not these guys. So, according to Detroit's coach, there's nothing structurally wrong with his knee. But if there's nothing structurally wrong, why in the hell did Reggie Bush just collapse and grab his knee like it was a torn? He act like he was shot. Acts like he was just shot. So, man, I never understand the mentality of the soft football player. Hey, got too much talent to be soft, baby. Too much talent. But Detroit, man, every time, it's like my friend Max says, he laughs at the Detroit fans because every time they pull you in, they drag you in. Every time, like Corey Leone said, every time I think I'm out, they pull me back. Well, that's Detroit. Every time you think this is going to be the year they're finally going to do it, they pull a stinker like they did and lose to Arizona 25-21. The Giants, 0-2, 41-23, loses to the Denver Broncos. But you know what? I can't say much about the Giants in terms of 0-2 teams, in terms of it's less than 12% of them make the playoffs starting 0-2, because guess what? Out that 12%, twice it was the New York Giants in the last 5 years, and guess what? They won to win the Super Bowl. They went on to win the Super Bowl, so you never count out a Tom Coughlin coach team ever, ever, ever. But right now, man, they have to do some things. Coughlin has just put this ball, this running back, just made a mess of him. The kid is running the ball with two hands because he's afraid to fumble, and he has a right. Coughlin has a right to get on him. He shouldn't be fumbling that ball. But if you're gonna put a kid out there and you're gonna put your team in a position to win, don't have the kid so scared that he's holding the ball with two hands running. I mean, he's running to the line with two hands. You're not gonna be successful like that because that simply is not your style. You're not going to be able to be the playmaker, the dynamic force of nature. And if you're relying on Brandon Jacobs and some of those scrub backups to do the job, it's going to be a long, long year. Eli has not played well because when you have Hakeem Hicks, when you have Victor Cruz, when you have Ruben Randall, you have too much talent to be struggling. I know you haven't had the running game, but you can do a better job protecting that ball. Denver, they just keep rolling. Let's face it, the best of their defense hasn't been seen. The best of their defense hasn't been seen. And when they put it all together, they don't even have a great running back right now. It's more of a committee in Denver. Man, I'm telling you right now, Denver is going to be scary, scary good. Because if they're putting up 41 points, and it's like ho-hum 41 points, imagine if they get the running to go with that. And they put the defense together in the same game. It's going to be scary how good Denver can be. Oakland, surprising. Not surprising to me, but they beat Jacksonville 19-9. Once again, we talk about Jacksonville. When you're scoring just 9 points, as good as your defense may be, you're devoid of talent. And that's what the situation is. There's no talent. The cupboard is bare in Jacksonville. They might as well get Tebow. They had a bunch of fans that are petitioning for them to sign Tebow. Why not? Blaine Gabbert can't play. He can't play. He simply can't play. You're going to go to Chad Henne, a scrub, or a reject, a has-been that never was? You might as well take a fly on Tebow. At the very worst, he can make things happen. And guess what? If it makes the fans happy, let them play, because you had people apologizing in the Jacksonville market for showing the game. They're contractually obligated to show the Jaguars away game in Oakland, but they had to apologize for showing it. And when you have the local TV market apologizing, affiliate, for showing a game, it shows that no one is happy with the on-field product. Maurice Jones-Drew hurt the foot again after coming off the surgery for the Liz Frank. There's nothing there. Justin Blackmon will be coming off suspension, but if you have no one to throw the ball to you, it's going to be a long, long year. Like the Jets, they simply have no talent on the offensive side of the ball. I could see Jacksonville losing all of their games this year, not even winning a game. And the team that they do beat, it's going to be a long, long talk with the coach of that team, because this is simply a bad team. Oakland, Terrell Pryor has been looking pretty good. And I could see in a weak AFC, I could see Oakland, if they're able to keep it up, and that's a big question mark, because Oakland has had pretty good starts on the fade again and again and again over the past few years. But I could see Oakland trying to make some type of way to find themselves into the AFC playoffs. Are they good? Not really. They have a mediocre defense, and they lost one of the cornerbacks, one of the safeties for the year. That's going to hurt them. But I tell you, this Terrell Pryor is really a dynamic force. He has a good young receiver in Streeter. All depends on Run DMC. All depends on him. Will McFadden, will the law firm, will he be able to stay healthy and keep contributing? Because that takes a lot of pressure off Terrell Pryor, the rookie. Well, the second-year player. So that remains to be seen. But Oakland, hats off to you, 19-9. San Francisco. Let me just talk about this game. I predicted that Seattle would beat them, but I did not think it would be 29-3. I kept saying, if San Francisco is so great, such a great defense, why did they give up 35-plus points to Green Bay in opening week? I kept saying over and over, if you're truly that talented, and they're stacked, on the defensive line is stacked, that the linebacker spot they're stacked, that the defensive backfield is stacked, Something is wrong when you're giving up those type of points. They went to Seattle, and let's face it, that's a hard place to play. I'm not going to make excuses for that. I understand that. But at the end of the day, to only score 3 points, despite the fact that Seattle is great defensive-wise, but to only score 3 points, count them, 3 points. You can't call yourself a Super Bowl contender scoring 3 points, and then you give up almost 30. Particularly in your division, it's supposed to be so tough, and you're supposed to be the ones that will step away from the Super Bowl. Once again, I said it over and over again. Colin Kaepernick, after their game plan against him, who's he going to throw the ball to? If I shut down Vernon Davis and Anquan Bolden like Green Bay ineptly did not when Bolden went off over 200 yards, where are they going to go? Where is Kaepernick going to go? All of a sudden, the lanes for him to run are not there. That means you're relying on Frank Gore, who's long in the tooth. He's a veteran and he's good, but he's long in the tooth. And you saw what happened when they went up against a young, dynamic team at home in the Seattle Seahawks. They got beat down, abused by the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle Seahawks are serving notice like the Denver Broncos saying, hey, we'll see you in the Super Bowl, Denver and Peyton Manning. That's the type of performance that Seattle put up. San Francisco, something is wrong. Harbaugh, you better get into your little playbook, get into your little systems, because something is definitely wrong with that defense when you're not even in the top 10 among defenses, but you have arguably the best and youngest talent in the league on defense, and you're giving up that many points. Something is not right. Monday night, oh man. We said this, we called this game Cincinnati over Pittsburgh 20-10. Pittsburgh is a classic example of what happens when you allow a team to get old. They just have gotten old. They've allowed this team to get old, and it's just sad to see. They're just not the team that they once were. They let the team get old, and it's really kind of sad when you think about it. Ben Roethlisberger, I feel so bad for him. He has no running game. Pouncey was hurt. The offensive line wasn't great before. Then you lose your all-pro center. Le'Veon Bell, the rookie that you're counting on, he probably has a Liz Frank, but they keep denying it. But when you start missing week after week after week, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to realize something's not right. You don't have anything. You really don't have anything. He doesn't even have a chance to throw the ball deep. It's going to be a long season. And I don't know how much abuse Big Ben can take, because a lot of times they see that big body and they say, well, he can take it. Man, he was just really abused. The defense, Troy Polamalu and, Lamar Woodley, they still have little glimpses of what was, but it's in hindsight. You're thinking about them in the past. They're pretty good, but they're not going to hold up. Those old bodies are going to start to break down like Polamalu has the past 2 or 3 years. And with no offense to speak of, what happens for Pittsburgh, because they really have to rebuild. And this is not going to be a 1-year turnaround for them. Cincinnati, still not sold on them. When you have A.C. Green, and you have a dynamic rookie in Gio Bernard, and you have, you have everything at your disposal, Andy Dalton, that you would say Jermaine Gresham, the rookie Tyler at tight end, that double-headed combo. You have the skilled positions that you say, hey, you know what, I'm going to really do great. I'm going to have a great season. But 20 points against a Pittsburgh defense is not what it used to be, and you're playing at home. You have all of the momentum with you. That's not a good sign. That's not a good sign for Cincinnati going forward. So, don't get too excited. Because guess what? They're going to start the game plan against Gio Bernard. They're going to start the game plan and shut that down. Then you're going to have to wonder, where are your points? Where is your offense going to come from? Once again, we talked about this. We talked about this with Sam Bradford. Does it come the day when we find out, is Andy Dalton the one that can truly take you to the next level? How many years is we going to allow him to play before we start saying, you know what, you just can't cut it? Because they don't have, despite the greatness and youngness of that Cincinnati defensive front, which they've invested millions in, it simply isn't that good like a Baltimore Ravens defense of 2000 that will allow them to win a Super Bowl with a subpar performance by a quarterback. he has to go out there and do it like Joe Flacco did. Finally, to round it up, my Saints. I had no faith, y'all. I was a fool. I gotta say it. I was a fool. I gave up. I tweeted. I texted. I emailed. You name the social media, I did it. I was a fool. I said it was over. It was done. And if it hadn't been for the fool of Greg Schiano, the head coach of Tampa, it was over. Only that fool would kick a long field goal when all they had to do was pin the Saints back inside the 20, make them go 90 yards with one timeout and less than a minute left. The game would have been over, more than likely, because the odds would have been too great for you to be able to go that distance, particularly with them playing a prevent type of defense to keep the ball inbounds and keep everything in front of you. But sure enough, he tried to kick the long field goal. It missed. The Saints get great field presence, great field location. And 3 plays later, baby, it's over. Garrett Hartley, another guy. That's a fool for me. I don't like that. Don't like him ever since he missed that extra point against the Falcons. And we played catch-up that entire year, 2 years ago, to the Falcons because of that loss, because of that win that we should have had in Atlanta. I've never trusted Garrett Hartley, but he came through on the chip shot to win the game. It's been a tough 2 victories, but as I was breaking down, if, like Seattle, if you can have that 13th man, that 12th man, and you can have that dynamic stadium noise, and you can make it almost impossible to win at home, in your home, if you can hold court, if you can win all 8 or 7 out of 8 and steal a few on the road, you get to that magical 10-11 mark and you're in the playoffs. Well, Tampa was one of those wins we stole on the road. 1 down. We still play the Jets. That should be a victory. Once again, there's no such things as a given in the NFL. But with that said, I'm sorry. I am sorry, but I can't hold it anymore. I've been saying it over and over again. Please stop playing Mark Ingram. Please stop playing Mark Ingram. I don't care if Mark Ingram goes off for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns in the game against Arizona. Mark Ingram is not an NFL running back. He's not an NFL running back. Not first string, at least. Not first string. If you want him as your backup. But he shouldn't be outsnating plays. To me, every play that they put Mark Ingram in, and say they give him the ball 12, 15 times a game, you're basically conceding 12 or 15 plays down the drain for nothing. The only time Mark Ingram has showed any semblance of being great or dynamic was when games were well in hand, the Saints up by 2 touchdowns or more, then he'll break off a 15, 20, 30-yard run. And he'll look fantastic then. You know why? Because guess what? All of a sudden, the opposing defense is not playing as tight. They're playing a little bit loose. Then, all of a sudden, he hits something big. But when you got the ball at the goal line to run in 2 yards for a touchdown, and you can't break a tackle, you can't beat him on the end with your speed, and you can't break the tackle of a damn cornerback? Come on. A cornerback that you outweigh by 30 pounds? Son, what is that? That's not NFL caliber. You know, one of the worst things teams do is try to justify a selection. And they moved up and they gave up to get him in the first round. Let's face it, that's what they did. And he had a terrific college career, but that's the problem. When you fall in love with these college running backs, you fall in love with them. Why? Because they played for a national champion, because the team was so dynamic. You look at that offensive line in Alabama that he had. Just about everybody on that offensive line is either in the pro or some type of pro ball. That was a terrific offensive line. And he wasn't that good. He was a product of a system and a talent level. Now you put him where he's the man, and every time he gets knocked down or he hits the wrong hole, or he doesn't trust what a blocking assignment is supposed to be, and he bounces out, every time it's always somebody else's fault. He comes up, he's sulking, he's complaining. he's kind of like, oh, it's never the responsibility. And the question has to be asked to Sean Payton is, at what point, what have you seen that the fans haven't seen that gives you confidence in Mark Ingram to be basically splitting the load with Pierre Thomas? Because when you give Pierre that ball, he doesn't have maybe the stature, he doesn't have the money in terms of the first round pick and all the accolades of a Mark Ingram, but pound for pound, he's so much of a greater player and a running back and a tougher player than Mark Ingram could ever dream of, could ever hope to be. And I understand there's a difference when the Saints have had success, the Super Bowl year and another year when we won 11, 12 games, it was through running the ball. But I want to tell you something. Just the pretense of running the ball, like Green Bay tends to do now, saying, well, we're not getting anywhere, but we're going to run it anyway 20, 25 times a game, and we may not get 60 or 70 yards, but we're going to run it anyway. That is right. You have to keep opposing defenses honest. But at the end of the day, you're not fooling anybody if you're not effectively running the ball. And when you have 2 or 3 shots from a person's goal line to score a touchdown, and you can't insert your will, whether it's through the offensive lineman or through the fullback or through the running back, when you can't do that, that speaks volumes about what type of team you are. And at the end of the day, they will shut down Drew Brees in that passing game just enough to create turnovers. You're going to have some semblance of a running game. It's time to stop fooling yourself. Put Cadet in there if you have to put a more physical of a back than you think Pierre Thomas is, or Pierre needs a rest. I would have rather seen little Darren Sproles run that ball at the goal line. And if you're going to run, stop running off tackles. Stop running these sweeps. Go straight ahead. I think the fans will respect it, and it'll give the fans and people a greater concept of just what we're dealing with the Saints offense in terms of the ability to assert your will. Because at the end of the day, the game of football is about forcing one man, forcing his will on another man. Moving a man against his will. That's the essence of the NFL, baby. That's the essence of the NFL. Making another man do something against his will. Moving that man. And nothing is that more heightened and highlighted than when you have 2nd and goal, 3rd and goal, 4th and goal at the 2-yard line, and you can't punch it over for a touchdown. You're not going to win a title like that. You're not going to win a division like that. And you're not going to have ultimate success. So despite the record of 2-0, there are warning signs that have to be addressed. Will they be addressed in the Arizona Cardinal game this Sunday? Maybe so. But I'm telling you, Mark Ingram, take him out. If you don't want to cut him, put him on the back burner. Put a clipboard and a hat. Put an Alabama hat on his head if you want. But no, baby, don't give him the rock. Don't give him the ball. Because that ball is bad. Bad. And not bad in a good way. Bad as in can't play. If he had been a 3rd round pick, if he had been a free agent, a 4th round, 5th round pick, he would have been cut and released or bust. Oh, yeah, somebody would pick him up. Then the minute they get him, they say, oh, this dude can't play. Boom, you gone. Because whenever you're a 1st round pick, you always get a second chance somewhere. Somebody always says, well, they were a former 1st round pick. Former 1st round pick, we have to give them a chance. They're a former 1st round pick. Former Heisman Trophy winner. That's why general managers and coaches make mistakes. And a quick way to get fired and lose control is to try to justify a mistake instead of moving on. Move on. Just like Sean set out last year, and he came back and said, you know what, I made a mistake with Spagnolia. I got to get Ryan in here to coach this defense and change it up. I made a mistake. Well, guess what? It's time to admit the mistake. That is Mark Ingram, baby. Admit it. Move on. Because I tell it to you straight with no chaser, baby, on the Sports Parade Magazine podcast.
Everybody get up.
Thank you for joining me for the Sports Parade Magazine Daily Podcast. And remember, check me out at Mark Sword or at Sports Parade Mag. Check out the website, sportsparademagazine.com. Remember, all you that are asking, all those wonderful pictures are from Peter Forrest Photography. Peter Forrest Photography. We'll be right back at you with the Sports Parade Magazine Podcast tomorrow.